He sits in his car beneath the windows of his own apartment, engine off, hands still on the wheel. Upstairs is Lena, his wife. 3 weeks ago, her mother died. The kitchen light is on, so she hasn't gone to bed. Sergei has been looking at that window for 15 minutes. He can't help her. That is exactly why he can't go up. If there is someone close to you who is hurting, and you don't know what to do, and you have already caught yourself dropping by a little less often, this video is about you. Not about them, about you. There are no words that fix this. The sooner you learn that, the less you will blame yourself for not finding them right now. But there is something you are genuinely needed for, and it is not the thing you keep trying to give. He reaches for the door handle a third time and lets it go. Once he glanced at his phone and was surprised to realize he was just staring at the numbers of the time without seeing them. Sergei is 50. He walked up to this door every evening for 20 years. It isn't about the way home. It's that up there, behind that window, hell have to be next to a person he can't help again. And he's no longer sure he can bear that feeling one more evening. Over these 3 weeks he tried, it seems, the whole set of good husband phrases. See a doctor, you need to talk to someone. Go to the coast for a week, a change of scenery helps. Pull yourself together, the kids are watching you. He said it with love, honestly, because he really couldn't stand to see her like this. Every time, after these words, Lena didn't argue. She just hunched a little more and withdrew further. Not from the room, deeper into herself. Sergei had almost started to suspect there was a secret club of people who tell you to take your mind off it. It's just that all its members somehow came to him. And now he's in the car, not upstairs, though he'd never admit it out loud. He catches himself waiting for the kitchen light to finally go off, as if then it would be easier to go up. This is a video about the one who's beside them, the husband beneath his own windows, the friend who has carried someone else's grief on her shoulders for half a year now, the mother who can't sleep because her grown son won't pick up the phone again, about the friend who keeps changing the subject when the conversation gets too close to someone's pain, about what to do when you can't fix what's happening to someone close, and simply standing next to that fact is unbearable. Most of us have a similar reaction in the face of someone else's helplessness. Let's call it fixing. Problem to solution, symptom to advice. That's how almost all the rest of life works. The tap broke, you called a plumber. Sales dropped, you changed suppliers. In the car, Sergei just honestly tried to apply the same logic to his wife, with the very phrases we already heard. The trap is that each of them sounds like care. See a doctor, care. Pull yourself together, a kind of faith in the person. You've got us, you've got the kids, you have something to live for, a kind of support. In reality, they all have the same bottom. Unsolicited advice, given too early. A person in deep pain often hears not at all the way it was meant. Not as care, but as a polite request to hurry up and become convenient for everyone again. And here's what's important not to confuse. Grief, depression, divorce, the loss of a job that held you for 20 years. These are very different states, and you can't measure them by one yardstick. But in the one who's beside them, the reaction is almost always the same: to urgently fix the other person's state, so as to stop feeling your own helplessness. This isn't cruelty, and it isn't indifference. It's something far more human, and far more uncomfortable. Advice helps not only the one it's given to, very often it helps the one giving it, to get back the feeling of control where there really is none. We bear our own helplessness next to someone's pain poorly, and we rush to cover it with anything at all. And still, it isn't that advice is bad. Sometimes a person really will need advice. Sometimes a doctor. Sometimes concrete help. It's just that almost never is that the first thing they need. And there's a simple thing that reaches them faster than any words. When someone calm sits down beside them, the other person's anxiety slowly settles, from the mere fact that this person isn't panicking and isn't rushing them anywhere. You don't even have to say anything. Your calm presence already speaks for you. Right now, you don't have to cope alone. Here, a direct caveat matters. If the person beside you talks about not wanting to live, or the pain is so strong it becomes dangerous, stay with them, and at the same time immediately seek professional or emergency help. Presence doesn't replace a doctor. This isn't a reason for panic at every step. It's a boundary a grown person is obliged to know. A random car passes outside. An ordinary evening, if you don't know what's happening behind one particular window on the third floor. There's a version of the same mistake, quieter, forced cheerfulness. It sounds softer than advice, but it works the same way. It closes the door to the room where a person is hurting and asks them to hurry out to the guests. It's easy to spot from the outside and almost impossible to catch in yourself. Vera, who lost her husband this winter, on her first day back at work, heard 3 variants of the same phrase in a row. At least you have work. It'll keep you busy. You're strong. You'll cope. Time heals. You'll see. Everyone said it sincerely. Vera later admitted to a friend, after the third at least, she wanted not to cry but to apologize to everyone for even showing up to work so inconvenient. And the third version, the least noticeable and the most common, avoidance. You don't say anything bad. You just come by a little less often. Come home a little later. Sit on your phone a little longer, even when you're physically right there. On the surface, nothing happened, and the person across from you feels it before you manage to admit it to yourself. Let's go back to Sergey in the car. He tells himself, she needs to be alone right now. I won't intrude. That's honest in its own way, but if he's completely honest, it's he himself who needs to stay a little further from her pain. And she needs to be alone just sounds more decent than, I need a break from this. Let's name it honestly, without self-flagellation, because almost everyone does it. Being next to someone else's helplessness is unbearable for us ourselves. And we, not because we're bad people, but because we're alive, look for any way to get control back. Advice, cheerfulness, or the door a little less often. These are 3 forms of one and the same escape. A person whose world has collapsed inside in the first weeks most often doesn't need your plan. They need someone not to disappear while they're in the worst state they have. It sounds simple. It's one of the hardest things you've ever been asked. Because staying next to a person you can't help means agreeing to your own powerlessness. And we're built so that powerlessness is just about the most unbearable of states. It's easier to offer a solution, even a useless one, than to admit, I can't fix this. I can only be here while it's happening to you. Saving another person by your own strength isn't your job. Your task is humbler and more honest. Not to disappear silently, not to leave them without connection, and not to try to carry it all alone. Sometimes staying is sitting down and being quiet. Sometimes calling a doctor, bringing in relatives, bringing food, or honestly saying, I love you, but I can't do this alone. And in a relationship where you're being destroyed, closeness doesn't at all have to mean staying under the blows. This is worth saying in a bit more detail because people end up in this more often than they admit out loud. Sometimes the trouble isn't loss, but betrayal. A husband finds out his wife cheated on him. Staying here doesn't mean pretending the wound isn't there, and it doesn't mean trust came back overnight. It means not disappearing, not into silence, not into punishment, while the slow work, guaranteed by nothing, goes on. To understand whether it can be forgiven and lived through. Forgiveness isn't a cage you're obliged to stay in forever. It's a door worth opening if on the other side, someone is also honestly working. But if the person on the other side doesn't acknowledge their responsibility, doesn't repent, and keeps destroying trust, staying under those blows is no longer love, but the slow destruction of yourself. Sometimes the most honest form of not disappearing is not disappearing from your own life. A person in acute pain is rarely helped by advice you open the conversation with. First, it's more important to understand whether they can even hear words right now, and what exactly they want from you. What does this mean in practice? Not in the abstract, but on that very evening, under that very window. Stop fixing first. Start asking. Not, why are you like this? But what do you need more right now? For me to listen, just sit beside you, help with something specific, or for us to find a specialist together. A question instead of a diagnosis changes everything. You stop deciding for the person and start hearing them. If you don't know what to say exactly that. I don't know what to say right now, but I'm here. One of the few phrases that doesn't try to fix someone's pain, but simply sits down beside it. It solves nothing. That's exactly why it works. Stay in the small things when you can't stay in the big ones. You won't pull a person out of depression in one evening, but you can come with ready-made food, so that didn't cook doesn't become one more reason for shame. You can sit beside them and just hold a cup in your hands, saying nothing. Presence isn't inaction. It's the one action that isn't afraid of someone else's pain. And the hardest thing, the thing people usually don't talk about, there will be evenings when you do everything right, and it doesn't get easier. That evening, Sergey will go up after all. Sit beside Lena. Not fix. Stay silent. And she'll still cry just as hard as an hour ago. Alone. He'll want to decide he did something wrong again. He didn't. Presence doesn't promise the person will feel better tonight. It gives only one thing, that there's definitely someone beside them. Tamara is 58. Her son, Artyom, after a divorce, sank into such a dark, shut-off state that he stopped opening the door even to his mother. Didn't answer calls, didn't go out for bread. The light in his apartment either burned all night or didn't come on for days. Tamara didn't lay heroic siege to that door. She wrote a short message, not demanding an answer. Then another. Left food by the threshold. Called on her older son and a doctor she knew for help, so as not to drag it all alone. Sometimes, she just came and sat beside it for a while. For several weeks, nothing changed. Then Artyom wrote first for the first time, 2 words. Leave the food. It wasn't recovery, but the connection didn't break, and that was the only thing that depended on her at all right now. And here's what Tamara understood earlier than many. She shouldn't have become the only person her son's life rested on. That's why she called on others and kept one evening a week, just hers. Resting from someone else's pain isn't the same as abandoning them. Sometimes the only way to truly come back is to first step away for a bit, get some sleep, ask to be relieved, and admit the limit of your own strength. Taking care of yourself isn't selfishness. It's the condition under which you'll last at all. She didn't cure her son. She did something else, and that was within her power. She didn't let the connection break, and didn't stay alone in that role. Maybe Artyom would have written that message without her too. She'll never know. But one thing she knows for certain, while she had the strength, she didn't disappear. And here's what you come to, if you stay next to someone's trouble long enough. One person has a limit. You can keep from disappearing, but you can't single-handedly replace everything another person needs to survive. And that isn't guilt. It's the honest size of a human being. A believer would put it more simply. Keep the connection, but don't take the whole outcome on yourself, because there is someone greater than both you and this trouble. And then what shouldn't have been there quietly lifts off your shoulders, the obligation to save. What remains is what's within your power, not to leave a person alone. This is, perhaps, the most honest thing you can call love for a person in trouble. To stay with them the way you'd want someone to stay beside you, if one day you're the one at the bottom. Almost a year passed. Sergey is under the same window again, only now from the inside, at the table. A different man sits at this table, not by name, but by the way he sits. He stopped bringing ready-made solutions, stopped waiting for a progress report from Lena. He just sits down across from her, sometimes stays silent, sometimes talks about something completely unimportant, the weather, the neighbor's dog. On the stove, the kettle is coming to a boil. The very sound that a year ago set his teeth on edge, because it foretold one more hard evening. Now it's just a kettle. On one of those evenings, Lena looked up at him for the first time in a long while and said, "Thank you for not running. Not thank you for helping, not thank you for fixing me, just for not running." That phrase didn't mean Lena felt fine and the story was over. It was still hard for her sometimes. But Sergey understood, for the first time, a simple thing. The fact that relief didn't come quickly didn't make his presence useless. All that year, he'd been afraid that since he couldn't cure her, it meant he was of no use. And it turned out to be exactly the opposite. Curing her wasn't even possible. All that was possible was not to disappear. And it turned out that this was exactly what was truly expected of him. If this conversation reached you, hit like, so those who right now are sitting in the same kind of car under their own window will see it. Because if you're now, like Sergey a year ago, beside someone's trouble and don't know what to do, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes you can't give a person relief, but you can give the thing without which they often can't reach that relief at all. The feeling that they weren't left alone. It isn't visible right away, just as Sergey didn't see it either. And if, while you were listening, someone came to mind whom it's hard for you yourself to be near, you don't have to forward this video to them. You can start with 3 words. I'm here. Sometimes that's exactly where it's worth starting.